We have our guest in the house now, and we're so privileged to have Matthew Ahirabo, who is a skilled entrepreneur, if you like. Is a leather works, entrepreneur in Benin City. So in the next minutes, we're going to be looking at creative industry initiatives in Nigeria that the federal government has put a pass on, that it can go on. Against the backdrop that we've seen that rather than lay so much emphasis on oil, on petroleum in the country, Nigeria ought to be looking at other sectors, other ways to generate income in the country. And not just only generating income, also finding ways to provide employment for its teeming youth. So that's the basis of this discussion this morning, so that you as a youth there, I mean, the year is still new, it's still a brand new year, so you can key into the discussion this morning. And of course, you can see how you can reject that innate ability, that skill that God has given to you, that talent, if you like now, that God has given to you. Mr. Matthew Ahirabo, welcome to the program this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Evans. Good morning, Edo State. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. All right. So yesterday, the federal government had to approve the creative initiative, creative industry initiative in Nigeria. And of course, we have so many
key areas
in creative industry initiative in the country. You have those in entertainment, you have those in creativity, garment making and all that, and
solar installations,
exactly, and all that,
POP fixings,
exactly, and all that. So you have so many of them. But our attention this morning is to really look at where we are coming from.
Yes.
In this regard. So what do you think has been the major problem in creative initiative in Nigeria?
Yes. Good morning, Edo State. Good morning, Nigeria, once again. We are going to be extraying entrepreneurial activities in Nigeria. We're going to be just opposing two ministries this morning, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Trade and Investment. We're going to look at what these ministries have been able to do in trying to make Nigerians enterprising, and not just a consuming nation, but a producing one for that matter. Let's look at the Ministry of Education, giving it to the new Minister of Education, Dr. Lausa, who is a medical doctor and all of that. How we want to look and tell the government of Nigeria to not just fix people, appoint people into positions in which they do not have antecedent. Looking at the Ministry of Education, I would suppose or suggest that it will be an educationist, that the federal government will put at the helm of affairs so as to drive the education curriculum. Now that they've institutionalized vocational skills, to be precise, 15 new skill area, not just in the tertiary institution, but from the post-primary education system, so that we'll be able to inculcate, in our youth, the creative tendencies, not just to be paper-driven or certificate-driven, that by the time I graduate, I will get a paid job and all of that. Even if, the job is not for community, you should be able, the education you receive should be such that you'll be able to create a value for yourself, just like what I've been doing in the leatherworks industry, over 2 decades now. We've been able to create, an ambience, an atmosphere, to produce locally made goods, that will be that was hitherto imported, to be produced locally, and by way of standardization, we'll get foreign earnings at the long run. Now, we are talking about education system in Nigeria, looking at the entrepreneurial activities. I want the federal government, beyond paying lip service, not just, imagine the TMI project for the last year, over 500 applicants, only 15,000 people scaled through.
What do you mean by TMI project?
The TMI, the Technical and Vocational Education training by the Industrial Training Fund. Only 15,000 people out of 500 applicants, What about the rest applicants? What provision, what enabling environment is government giving them without the federal government support to be able to create, something for themselves? So what are we saying? Government should look, more detailed than just institutionalizing the vocational skill. Should look more detailed, creating enabling environment. They should provide the effective power supply, good road network, so that even though you cannot employ them, you cannot absorb them. Every year, the tertiary institution, they are turning out graduates, into the labor market. The industries are not there. So what are we saying? You understand? We should look beyond just institutionalizing it, making it a policy or a curriculum or in our syllabus, to create enabling environment such that we'll be able to add value to our raw materials, turn them into finished product for local consumption, so as to avoid this excessive dependency on imported goods. You understand? Because any nation that is depending on importation, will have their balance of payment deficit worsening by the day. And that will not tell well about our national income accounting.
All right.
Yes.
You've really laid the groundwork for my discussion with you to ensue, because I have some questions to ask you.
Okay.
But you talked about having the Minister of Education who has a, medical background.
Yes.
Before now we've had this conversation of putting, the square peg in the square hole.
Yes.
But of course, you would always know that in the civil service, for instance, there is always a PAMSEC heading a particular ministry.
Yes.
So even if the president, by virtue of his appointment, makes, an individual a minister of education,
yes,
by right, the person should have an antecedent of being in that particular field. But of course, it has always been said that it is mostly viewed as an administrative position, so that you have the PAMSEC that will take him through that part. But then, that's on the one hand. Looking at it from the angle of you being a professional from the leather world, yes, it is also very important for us to be able to have our raw materials, sourced locally. Now, what do you think will be a challenge for you? Looking at it from the angle of we having the participation and, of course, the involvement of the federal government through the minister, what do you think will be your challenge when it comes to sourcing of raw materials?
You see, we talked about appointment and all of that, and putting of square pegs in square holes, like you've rightly mentioned. One thing in Nigeria, it's not an elective position that if you are qualified with certain educational background, you can run for an office. When you talk about ministry, you understand, beyond being a civil service whatsoever, you have to look at, because you cannot tell me that you've, as an education ministry, then you went through all the nation, all through the political parties. Let's put partisanship aside now. You could not get somebody who is competent in some key area, just like a medical doctor now. With all due respect to him, bringing him to the education ministry. What about those who have been taught, the curriculum, the syllabus of education system? Talk about early childhood, curricular, instructional, and all of that, all those departments that are in the faculties of education. You've gone through all those ones. You couldn't get a competent hand. This brings to mind that we need technocrats, if I may use that word. We need technocrats who will drive, just like who I am now. You take me to law practice. I will know little or nothing about that, though to a certain extent I will be able to know, the terms of contract and all of that. But to know the nitty-gritty in jurisprudence, that is not my area. You understand? We need people who are skilled in certain area to man our institutions, to man our industries. Let me not be pessimistic about this government, but let us take it beyond, just politics and partisanship. Having said that, the other question was,
how do you source your
raw material? You see, before now, the issue of headers and the farmers class has been something of, even up till now, people are scared to go to farm. But these are opportunities like the animals boundary, the cattle rearing. Why not us modernize, you know, the way we rear our cattle so that it will become a raw material for the leather works industry by way of tannery. You know, it's from animals boundary. Government should get there are a lot of opportunities in Nigeria, natural resources, human capital, and all of it. We need to look inward to harness our potentials. You know, what God has blessed us with as a nation, so that we will not become a ridicule, you know, in the community of nations with all this abundance of resources. You know, look at cattle rearing now. It's becoming a problem because they've not been tamed, they've not been, you know, properly managed. You know, for us to get hind and skin. Imagine now the white man will come get the raw crude, the raw hind, the raw skin, you know, take it abroad, refine and sell back to us at a higher price. What is wrong with us establishing a tannery here? You understand? So these are the problems, these are the issues. But thank God now, before now, let me give it to these present administrations once again, which was started from Buhari's administration to project billions of dollars, to be precise, $5 billion in the leather works industry in the next 5 years, so that we'll be able to establish industry.
All right, thank you one more time. The program is still right here on independent television. We are looking at creative industry initiatives in Nigeria. Now, yesterday, as the approval was going on, the president had to remind the Minister of Tourism and Investment that there is a program that the ministry must work with, talking about the Creative Leap Acceleration Program. Now, that is more or less a kind of energizing the Ministry of Tourism and Investment to ensure that when we talk about creative initiative in the country, by the year 2030, like I said a while ago, that Nigeria will become a country that investors, importers will come to and import finished materials, finished goods and all that. But here we are now, we're looking at some of the issues that are still bedeviling creative initiatives in Nigeria. Now, Mr. Matthew Hirobo, 2030 is just 5 years from now. You know, I don't know, what do you think the federal government needs to do now? I mean, so that 2030 will be a year that Nigeria will realize.
Yes, take it or leave it. We have good policies in Nigeria, even with the recent introduction of these 15 new skills in our education system. The only thing is that if our leaders can just be sincere for once, you know, to harness, look at the budget of this 2025. Only 40 billion was earmarked for the entrepreneurial sector. But look at the presidency and the House of Assembly, and for their overheads, go and look at over 400 billion. So you can see that, let me not say they are not sincere, but even with that 40 billion, if well utilized, I tell you, we are creative enough. And as you said, it will become, you know, a processing zone. Just like I told you, we started out of Lagos last year, you know. In all 6 geopolitical zones from this 2025, you know, if we are sincere, you know, if our political leaders are the civil servant also, even if the political leaders are sincere, the civil service, you know, is not following suit, there will be a problem. Imagine trying to push for some contract, you know, because you are not settling some table, the file will be left dormant. All these things should stop, because it's going to boomerang on the society. You that throw stone in the market, you don't know who is going to meet. You don't know that fake, poorly executed contract on our road, you may be the one to suffer the penalty tomorrow. So let us be sincere. It will take the pain for this first time, but in the long run, you know, we will have a reason to smile. You understand? Let us be sincere. It's going to be possible, but if you look at the way the federal government is going to become, to get Nigeria ready for the 21st century, what do you call it? You know, but if you ask me, it's like preparing Nigeria for the 20th century, because the model with which we are implementing, you know, is not going to take us far. Because even the developed countries out there, they are not going to wait for you. They are going to be synergizing, pooling resources, collaborating more, you know, to get to where they are. Imagine look at what Donald Trump is doing now. you know, to drive the economy, because he wants to block leakages. You understand? The way to go as an entrepreneur is either you reduce costs without affecting your product offering, your quality offering, or you kind of be competitive. You understand? If you are the monopoly like we have in some sector, you determine price. So the way to go this time around, now that there are competitors, there are many players in the industry as to the international community, let Nigerians look inward, you know, to reduce their cost of governance, so as to inject more funds in the productive sector. Because without us being productive, my brother, it's going to go a long way, okay, if we can get it right. Yes.
All right. So we're looking at the issue of creative industry.
Yes.
You know, and your particular skill or profession, as it were, falls within this, yes, purview. And we're looking at 5 years from now. Take, for instance, you are in the leather world. Now we're looking at 5 years for Nigeria to be the major importer of, you know, processed, you know, product like leather, for instance.
Like exporter, to be a net exporter.
Yes, a net exporter.
Yes.
Now, with the kind of system we run, where there is no organization of cattle and herders, where people just have their cattle graze openly without having it ranched, how do you think people in your own space, professionals in your own space, can be able to get these raw materials? That's one. Two, we're having issues with the processing. Of course, you know you need electricity, which is also a challenge on its own. How do you think, with these challenges that I've just mentioned, you can be at that very level of being a major or net exporter of leather in the next 5 years, without looking at the mid and, of course, the long term?
You see, just recently, we've been able to organize ourselves in the leather works industry. We formed an umbrella body called NAPA, National Association of Leather and Leather Products of Nigeria. You know, having said that, we've been able to engage the federal government, and that is why I told you earlier that we've inaugurated that of the Southwest last year, and we are looking at something bigger for the South-South, starting from Edo State this year. You know, and in no time now, we are coming to kind of create opportunity for more consumers. We want to create an awareness to reduce the awareness of people consuming pomo, you understand, so that we can have the raw materials to process our leather. That even if you must eat pomo, don't eat pomo that has to do with the belly and the thighs. You understand? Let it be in the head or in the toe. You understand? Because they are seeing pomo in those areas. You know, we want to create an alternative investment plan for the pomo consumers in Nigeria, and we are starting something big with Edo State, you know, even in this February, as I tell you. So having said that, we need to, the federal government, that boils down to the sincerity that I've been talking about, still need to do more. You know, so this open grazing, you know, lack of regulation in that sector, supposed not to be. There should be proper organization, even in other key areas, not just in the garment or leather works. You know, we talked about the POP. Do you know now that even the fixing of tiling, you know, some still prefer go neighboring countries to source for expert. What is wrong with our youth? Because they just, is it that we believe in this get rich money syndrome or what? You know, let us believe in entrepreneurship. Look at all these key areas. There are 15 vocational skills.
49 now, 49 sectors.
Okay,
49.
You understand? So we need to look inward, because without which to be dependent, how is it that all raw materials that you can think of, let me not say all, almost all raw materials, God has blessed us with it. Why not we add value to them, so that we can have, you know, consumption of them, you know, then even export abroad to get foreign earnings. Okay. Do you know that we are running over 100 trillion naira as a national debt?
All right, so quickly, because Abuja is due for their segment now. Now, quickly, you lecture you lecture leather works. You teach leather works at the University of Benin and also at the Entrepreneurial University in Okada here. Now, it's a beautiful thing that we have shoemaking, you know, in our tertiary institutions and all that. So tell us what it's like. What is the perception, I mean, from an average Nigerian student?
You know, over 2 decades now that I've started this leather works industry. Before now, it was derogatory when you say a shoemaker. A shoemaker, so to speak. Teaching it but now, do you know that even in Europe, it's a big brand? When you talk about the leather works sector, big spoke manufacturers, they are billionaires in dollars. It is now here in Africa, in Nigeria, we relegate, you know, the key sectors that are really driving the economy. You know, but before now, with the advocacy, and I give it to ITV with the awareness and all of it, we've been able to make shoemaking, you know, a brand to be reckoned with. Okay. That it is being taught in the university, in polytechnic, and very in no time we are pushing for, you know, an accreditation from AUC, that it becomes a course of study in our tertiary institution. Yes, and we are piloting that. University of Benin, Igbenedion University, they will drive this course to see that leather works becomes a course. You know, we have a department for it, a faculty for it, to kind of, you know, develop, you know, to the fullest. To the fullest, this leather work sector, and you see, we'll get a lot of foreign earnings. All right, so you know, you may see, you know, the kind of product we offer. It meets international standard, yes. And I pray that we'll get there as a nation. God bless you so much.
Now, on a lighter note, I think for lovers of pomo, please do know that when you consume a lot of pomo, you are depriving Matthew from getting his raw material. So please, if you must eat pomo, don't eat pomo from the belly of the cattle, because that's where he has the big material. So you can eat pomo from the legs, from the hand and the head, so that you don't deprive Mr. Matthew here both from his raw material, because he deals with hides and skin to make the shoes that you wear.